Welcome to Dram Talk, your new mates on your journey into the world of whiskey. I'm Brad.
And I'm Daniel. And today we will be looking at the Cardhu 14 and the Cragganmore 12.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
I just had to throw that in there. I mean, if you couldn't tell by the title of the episode, we're back in the Thunder Dram, hey?
Yeah, so we're back. We're back looking at the Diageo's special releases. So we did have the first episode of the Thunder Dram with the Talisker 15 versus the Lagavulin 12.
Yeah.
So we're back for round two with Cardhu 14 and Cragganmore 12. To be clear, of the 2019 special releases, the rare by nature ones.
Yeah. Just we don't have the 2021s yet, so unfortunately for us in this corner of the world, they haven't popped up in our stores yet.
Yeah, we're very antsy. We're waiting their arrival.
I'm just like, give me some more of that nature release.
Yeah, it's killing us. You're killing us here, Diageo.
Yeah, but I've been really looking forward to another one of these. I mean, after all, when we do our tastings and our episodes, we don't ever really compare the two bottles that are on the episodes, and then we never really go off and recommend one over the other.
Yeah, I would say I mean, like, to some extent we do compare them with the ratings, but it isn't a direct contrast. Like, which one do we think is better than the other?
It's not like in an episode, it's like, all right, I gave this one an 8.4, then the one that was paired side by side on the episode is 7.6. I've not gone through that. So now you go out and you buy this 8.4 rated whiskey over this 7.6 one. Just chuck this one in the trash. It's not even worth your time.
Yeah, exactly. And like the point of these ones is for some people, like these cask strength special releases aren't always within like your normal price range for what you'd be spending on whiskey. So if you're after something a little bit more special or a little bit more complex and you want a choice between a couple of them, that's what our episodes here are for. We'll put some of the more expensive ones against each other and we'll tell you which one of these we would recommend.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to special releases, they're often going to be, as Daniel said, they're going to be pricey. But not only that, they're going to be eye-catching as well.
Yeah.
So they're gonna get you, and you're gonna look at it, and you're just like, do I really want to get both of these or all three of these? I'm not really sure if I can do that at this point in time. Well, that's what these episodes are for. Just hopefully nudge you in a direction that if your palates align with ours, then hopefully you go home with the right one.
Yeah, and like anecdotally, like we've seen this Cragganmore 12 on the shelves quite often, and their owl is featured very prominently on it with like this wide-eyed, innocent look, and it's just staring at you as you're walking through the shop, and you feel guilty leaving it behind. I know we did the first couple of times we saw it before finally I caved and bought it.
Yeah, it took a while for one of us to cave for that one, but I know for me, I haven't tried the 14 yet of the special release, but like just going into this episode, I feel like my opinion's already formed because I have tried the Cragganmore 12.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like we won't spoil it too much. We'll wait until we get into it, and we'll give you a bit of background on each of these bottles themselves, as well as the special releases in general.
Yeah. I'm putting my professional reviewing cap on, unbiased, as unbiased as I can be. That's what we're here for, folks. And Daniel and I, we love the special releases. It allows those master distillers, those master blenders, it lets them experiment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's what they are. Like, as we briefly covered in our Talisker versus Lagavulin battle, these bottles were members of the 2019 Rare by Nature special release. So each year, Diageo chooses individual casks that they believe have like something special about them. They offer something a little bit different for that particular distillery, and only certain whiskies are chosen, which is why prior to 2019, you would see their like annual special releases contain whiskies from some of the other distilleries. Like if I am not wrong, Brad's Open 21, that was a special release, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think that was 2018.
Right, sure. Yeah. And so, however, now they've brought out the Rare by Nature special release, which, as we've seen for the 2021, they contain the same bottles that the 2019 did. So they're fitting in with that same theme. So they're made up of eight bottles from eight different distilleries. And I mean, like their intention behind their normal special releases wasn't to pick a particular distillery. Like the name doesn't matter. What matters is the taste of the whiskey. But then again, the name also helps. Like,
yeah.
So I saw Lagavulin, like it was basically the name of Lagavulin was what got me into buying the 12 from the 2019 release initially, because I was like, yeah, I need to get myself a cask strength Lagavulin.
Yeah, and even for me, it was the same thing. Like I saw a cask strength Talisker, and it's like, how often do you see that? So then I purchased that.
Yeah. And so the choices of these are usually based off the casks that are slightly different. Not better, but slightly different to their original releases, which gives value added to that particular brand. Now, if you want to see a little bit more of a marketing in-depth breakdown of this, a lot of the information we're going to be going through throughout this episode was from Diageo's brand ambassador. So we did a couple of tasting videos that are on the whiskey's page on Master of Malt. So just a recommendation to probably go check them out if you want a little bit more information. But let's get into the Cardhu 14.
Yeah, just get straight into it. So I guess the Cardhu 14, if you don't know Cardhu, they're from the Speyside region, and they're often stated if you go on like the whiskey trail, a lot of the tour guides will usually tell you that this whiskey here has a familiar taste, and that's just due to the fact that it plays such an important part in a lot of the blends for Johnny Walker. So, yeah, like a lot, if you're familiar with Cardhu, or if you haven't tried Cardhu, you get a glass and you're thinking, and just in the back of your head, you're like, I've had this before. Where have I had it before? Where's it coming from? That's probably where it is. Yep. You're probably just drawing a little, I guess, connection to Johnny Walker in the back of your head there. Now, when it comes to their commercial bottlings, they have a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, and an 18-year-old. Now, if you're not familiar with, the traditional shape of the Cardhu bottle, it's like a nice, short, stubby bottle.
Yeah, it's very square with kind of like little, what are they called?
Indents
concave indents, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the special release bottle, they're all uniform, they're all the same.
Yep, so each of the distilleries have gone that kind of, I would say it's similar to what Lagavulin and Talisker are normally bottled in.
Yeah, I think the only one that kept their bottle shape, I think, might be the Mortlach.
Yeah.
I have a feeling just how wide that box is.
Yeah. Oh, no, and that's not true. Singleton as well. Singleton still kept that very oval shape. Yeah. So
they did too, yeah.
We just made a liar out of ourselves.
just lied and then automatically corrected ourselves.
Yeah.
You guys just witnessed live autocorrect.
Yeah.
And and namely with Cardhu here, especially the 12, you'd expect some creaminess and softness to be present. So with the 14, they've just taken that 12-year-old Cardhu spirit and they've matured it for an extra 2 years in ex-Amontillado hogsheads. Now, if you don't know, Amontillado is a type of sherry.
Yeah. It gives it's very like thick and viscous. So it gives like a lot of nutty richness to Cardhu. And I think that's where it comes down to this one. Like, if you're like us and you're on a sherried kick and you're like, I wonder what a sherried Cardhu would taste like, perfect opportunity. Or if you're a Cardhu fan and you're like, what would a sherried expression of Cardhu taste like? Again, this one's also for you. And even if you haven't tried Cardhu before, like getting into a distillery through their like cask strength bottles can be something else, especially if you're kind of, I guess, accustomed to cask strength bottlings, like at the higher ABV they do come at, because the Cardhu 14 here, this comes in at 55%.
Yeah.
So it's not a lightweight.
No, not at all. Now, I know like Daniel mentioned that getting into a distillery you don't know in at the cask strength, it can often probably lead to disappointment. I don't know. Because you're going to get so much more depth and so much more flavor, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, let's just get on to the nose, right? Because I didn't really have much more to say about this, apart from, I guess, a little more that I can add on to that sherry cask is being 2 years matured in that ex-Amontillado cask. It's probably a bit longer than you typically see when it comes to, I guess, a finish or an extra stage of maturation when it comes to a sherry cask or anything. So it's a bit longer than you'd normally expect. So hopefully these two flavors really marry well together. I'm hoping to see sweetness, but then at the same time, I'm hoping to see some of that nice kick from the sherry.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. So what are we getting on the nose?
So the nose is incredibly soft.
Yeah, like surprisingly for a cask strength bottling as well.
Yeah, incredibly, I want to say soft again, but it's just
Yeah.
so inviting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
Yeah,
one
you're
that,
not getting that like jumping out of the glass, overly sweet, raisiny kind of note as well. It's there, but it's like underlying.
yeah, to me, it's very fruity. Like I almost get a little bit of honey, not too much though.
Yep. Yeah, and there's like it's on the precipice of having like a very floral note as well, which okay, like we didn't mention at the start, but like as we have mentioned in our previous special release Thunder Dram episode, these bottles, they are decorated with the flora and fauna that are commonly associated with the distillery. So Cardhu here on its bottle, it's got pears, it's got a couple of wildflowers, I would guess, and some bees. Now, they've got a lot of rolling hills around them that do contain a lot of bees and flowers and orchards as well.
Yeah, so a lot of the Rare by Nature series, all the bottles will have different motifs that surround the distillery. And now back to the nose.
Yeah, I would say there's not too much complexity going on with the nose here, but it is insane that it is a really pleasant nose, though.
Yeah, I just came in there with that back to the nose, and I just took a whiff, and I was like, I'm not really getting much more.
It's basically it.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the palate then.
Yeah. Definitely vanilla.
Yeah, and what I found with the palate, like almost initially, it's very full. It's very also warm. Like the really dominant thing I'm getting from here is baked pear.
Yep.
Like to the point where I don't even know if I've actually ever identified baked pear before, because this is so obviously baked pear that it's kind of paled all other notes I've identified as that in the past.
Yeah, I can definitely get the pear note.
Mm-hmm.
And it's even more just orchard fruit as well.
Yeah.
Probably predominantly leaning towards the pear.
But it's like, I guess like more anecdotally just between us, Brad.
Yeah.
Do you remember the whiskey night we went to not too long ago? We had that baked pear as the dessert. Like that is what I'm getting.
It's very similar to that. And even for me, the mouth feels, I guess, medium.
Mm-hmm.
And even the finish, medium length as well. A little bit of complexity, not a whole bunch there to unpack though. Do I get a bit of nuttiness? Yes. Do I get a little bit of spice? And when I say little, I mean little. It's not a lot of spice.
Yeah. There is like, you can tell there is a sherry influence, but that's just it. It's the sherry influence. It's not, I wouldn't characterize this as a really dominant sherry whiskey. Like if someone's wanting to know what is a great sherry bomb, this isn't what would normally come to my mind, but for the additional depth and complexity that this is added to Cardhu's normal range, I have a bottle of the 12 with me here. It is definitely a step up. It's like the Cardhu amplified. But in saying that, it's like for us who are a little bit more on the peated coastally drams, they do normally accompany a lot of these common notes with additional extras that we're just not getting here.
Right, yeah. It's just really weird. Like I don't typically come across a whiskey where there's not too much to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm almost, I guess, struggling to increase the length of this discussion.
Yeah. I mean, like, even again on the second sip there, I just got more pear. Like, that's just a really dominant thing I'm getting here. Like, there are other things. There is, there is like a certain little spice there that's kind of on the edge of my tongue, but I can't quite identify what it is. But I want to say it's more of like a cardamom or a fennel, like, yeah.
Yeah, for me, that spice is predominantly vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there is something else there, but just everything else is so much more heightened and so much more strengthened that that extra little bit of spice is just, it's almost an afterthought and not one that I want to keep revisiting.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll add a bit of water to this one now. We'll just move on to that. I mean, again, at 55%, you're not going to do much harm.
So yeah, as Daniel mentioned, being at 55%, I've dropped in 2 teaspoons of water.
I mean, like, I feel like the nose has changed quite substantially after adding the water. It does feel a lot more floral. I'm getting it's not explicitly lavender, but I'm getting almost like a lavender-esque kind of vibe. But like to the point where you've got like what would you call it? Like floral essence, like whatever those like oils you can have burning.
Right, yeah. Because for
Taking the
me, I
scent
was
of
I was just about to say, very, very botanical now.
yeah.
It makes the, I guess, the imagery of the bee very, very appropriate.
Yep.
So it's like now I can see where I guess the strong emphasis on flora on the bottling comes from now. Very, very floral. The nose, I'd say, a lot more pleasant now with the addition of water.
I would also agree.
Because it still carries that softness. It's just that it's got a nice bed of flavor now.
Yeah. And underneath it, you still do have that kind of fruity, honey, almost the vanilla's carrying across into the nose as well.
Yeah, so it's all those notes we were picking up before, but they just have a base now.
Yeah.
A real floral base, you could say.
Let's see what it's done to the palate.
The heat from the alcohol has definitely dissipated, gone, non-existent.
I think it fills up the mouth a bit more. Previously, I was getting like the weight on my tongue and the warmth coming across on my tongue. Taking a sip of it, like, I don't know. It's very common for those cask strength whiskeys where it does feel like it's striking every part of your mouth.
Yeah. It's a lot more creamy as well.
Yeah, definitely is.
So I can almost see, I guess, almost the notes from the 12 slowly unraveling into the 14 now.
Yeah. And that really strong baked pear note I was picking up earlier, that's not as strong at the moment. But in saying that, it has given like a stepped aside and given way to a few other flavors. Again, it's not overly complex, but it's still pleasant.
Yeah, for me, the pear note definitely leading more towards the fruit as opposed to one that's been baked or prepared.
Yeah. And again, there is still like a lingering, subtle note of spice there that I think comes through a little bit more on the finish, especially as I'm talking and getting like the air flowing through my mouth.
Yeah, there's something else there. I just not too sure.
It's hard to pin it down.
Yeah. But what this whiskey definitely has is a very strong note of vanilla, I'm finding.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little bit of cherry.
Okay. Yeah, now that you mention it, I can see that.
Like, I feel that's almost what that aftertaste is in my mouth.
Yeah.
Like a bit of a cherry. Just cherry, peaches maybe. Something somewhere along the stone fruits. It's just, I'm not too sure what it is. The creaminess as well. It's maybe creamy wasn't the appropriate word. Maybe more, like you said, it was more mouth filling. But the dram itself is actually a little dry. I'm finding now.
Yeah, the moment like the liquid leaves your mouth, it does dry out really fast. But there is that creaminess initially. And I mean, like quick notes on that. I've just finished my dram. I mean, like this was one of the cheaper ones. I think it was, if not the cheapest one from the special releases. And it wasn't a huge jump up from what you'd normally find the Cardhu 12 or 15 sits at. So for a cask strength expression that is only, I mean, we'd have to double check this, and I guess it's regionally dependent as well. But I would say about $40, $50 more expensive than the 12 or 15. But I'm pretty sure it's sat at about $150. So I mean, like if you're looking at the Cardhu 15, which sits at 40%, and it's about $100, paying $50 for $50 more for a cask strength expression that's roughly the same age, but offers probably a little bit more complexity. It's not a bad deal.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's almost a deal that I'd say probably just jump onto that.
Yeah.
Instead.
If Cardhu's your distillery, if that's where you're sitting.
Yeah, so I'm just about to finish my dram. So do you want to get into dramming words?
Yeah, so I mean, like I made it pretty clear that to me, I'm eating a baked pear as dessert. So it's really like the really dominant note and what was sitting so vividly in my mind, but it's just that kind of sweet, warm, fruity, baked indulgence.
That's pretty good. I'm not too sure mine will be as good. I'd say a stroll through an orchard and you're kind of just going through, you're picking the pears off the trees, and a couple have just dropped onto the floor. And just straight under the trees, there's just a whole bunch of flowers and whatnot. So it's almost just a pear that you just picked up. And as you picked it up, you just ripped out a bunch of flowers as well. It's almost what it is. So just a earthy, florally pear.
Nice. All right, so let's get into the Cragganmore 12 now. Let's keep our speculations about how we think the 14 sitting until the end. But so like now Cragganmore again, we've got another Speyside distillery here. Its core range usually includes the 12-year-old, which is aged in refill and first fill bourbon barrels, and it gives it like a very mellow and fragrant taste. The other one people may be familiar with is their Distiller's Edition, which has been aged for 12 years in American casks, and then an extra 3 to 4 months in port casks, which changes the texture, makes it a little bit more softer, and gives it like an additional savory note. Now, Cragganmore is apparently the most sought after whiskey by other blending companies to put in their blends. I don't know if it's the most sought after Diageo whiskey or sought after Scotch whiskey. So a little bit unclear on that, but it is quite a popular one, whether you're familiar with their core range and tried their single malts, or if you're a blended fan, then chances are one of your blends would probably contain a Cragganmore. Now, the addition we have here, so they've got quite an interesting story behind this. So in 2006, there was a shortage of water on the west coast of Scotland, particularly Skye. Now, like, I know, like, already the story is suspect, like a shortage of water in Scotland. Like, you never hear that happening. But as hard as it is to believe, just like bear with me, because I think this story does pay off for what turned out to be a very interesting whiskey. So with the lack of access to clean, fresh water, distilleries like Talisker couldn't do the mashing, which meant they couldn't start the whiskey making process. And nobody knew how long this drought was going to last. So it ended up being about 3 to 4 months. And this was 3 to 4 months where Talisker couldn't be producing whiskey. So instead what they did, Diageo was like, okay, we need to make a whiskey similar to Talisker that we can put out when it comes of age, because we need to make up for this lack of production. So what they ended up doing is sending a whole bunch of the barley that was intended for the Talisker whiskey over to Cragganmore, where they could produce a whiskey similar to Talisker, like similar taste, similar peated level, to like fill in that gap that was going to come in the market when the aging process was finished. So 3 to 4 months in Speyside, Cragganmore made a Talisker-esque expression, which is what we've got here. So in 2019, they bottled that. And normally in Cragganmore, the peated level is about 0.3%. So like next to nothing. Yep. But this one that we've got, this one's up to about 8 to 10%. So it's still not where Talisker normally is, but it's a lot more peated than you'd ever find at Cragganmore. And this shows like a different complexity that you're also never going to be able to get again, because these are bottles that were made as part of a 3 to 4 month experimental process that they haven't repeated. So, and like tasting this initially, man, I'm keen to go out and find another bottle actually.
Yeah, and I think just for us in Australia as well, I think this one's probably been what would you say, like the least popular of the releases?
In the sense that it's the one that I've seen on the shelves everywhere.
Yeah, when we're constantly seeing every other bottle just being sold out. Yeah, I just struggle to understand why this one is still available.
Yeah, it's a mystery to me.
Yeah, and if we're like looking at these two guys, you know, Cragganmore in the red corner and Cardhu in the blue. I probably should have reversed the colors there.
I was going to say you should have reversed it.
But it is what it is. It's done. It's been said. I'm not editing this out. It's starting over again. At the moment, the Cardhu's thrown a couple solid punches, but I'd say they don't have a lot of follow through.
Yeah. Let's see how Cragganmore responds.
Yeah.
So on the nose, what have we got? Like initially, what I'm going to say is it is super fresh and fragrant.
Sorry. So yeah, for me on the nose, I'd say I get a little bit of custard. I get a lot of wood as well,
Yep.
and there's a bit of leather as well, like a bit of, I don't know, just I get that, like a leathery smell, but at the same time, it's still very crisp.
Hmm.
It's a really pleasant nose.
Yeah, I'm getting like very fresh outdoor crisp country air, like even at the night. Like it just feels like that crispness that you get in the night air. But then for the actual kind of flavors, there is like a little bit of like a citrusy, lemony twist to it as well.
Yeah, yeah, it does have that there.
Yeah, and that custard is coming through too. But I also see what you mean by the kind of those, I don't know what you'd call it, but that really similar kind of workshop kind of notes, like the leather, the sandalwood, even to some extent like that kind of peatiness that's sitting there. It's more of an
Yeah,
earthy peat than it is like a smoky wood peat.
yeah,
So you're getting that sense of like being in a workshop.
yeah, and even the peat, it's just very almost off in the distance,
Yeah.
but it's really giving a nice coating to everything else.
Because I was going to say, you don't have to really struggle to find it. It's still present, but just sitting in the background.
Yeah, and that's what's so pleasing of this nose, and what I initially noted when I first tried it was just that the peat really plays well with everything else, and it doesn't overpower anything.
Yeah. And like, I was going to say, like, the thing that got me about this is just how good it smells. Like, if I could turn this into like an air freshener or a candle, I would probably buy a candle.
Yeah, this would probably be my fragrance of choice, my perfume.
Yeah. There's also like a sweetness, like a sugary, hard-boiled lolly kind of sweetness to it as well. But again, that's kind of sitting in amongst all these other things. And yeah, I'm just going to keep reiterating that, like that really fresh, fragrant outdoor air kind of scent.
Yeah, and before we go on to the palette here, um, comparatively to the Cardhu, the Cragganmore sits at 58.4%. So a little bit higher. We're edging close to that 60. But it's really great to see that a lot of that, I guess, that burn doesn't come through on the nose.
Yeah, and then because it's a battle, let's like match comparisons to it, like blow for blow, how they're doing. I would say Cragganmore's coming out on top with this nose. Like I would be nosing this one any day over the 14.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you there. And it's almost just like everything on the nose anyway that
Yeah.
the Cardhu threw at the Cragganmore, kind of just took it in its stride.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost very appropriate that there's a bee on the Cardhu bottle and there is an owl on the Cragganmore bottle.
Yeah.
So just
That
food
owl's
chain.
going to devour.
Yeah, just food chain here, guys. It's just yeah.
But like, to be honest, like I hadn't tried a Cragganmore prior to this one.
Yeah,
And
same here.
like much like the owl on the front of the bottle, like I just like wide-eyed shock when I opened it. I was just like, damn, this is solid stuff. But let's get onto the palette.
Yeah.
Oh man, you go through a journey on that one.
Yeah, 100%. It almost, for me, it starts with a little bit of honey.
A little bit of fruit.
Yep. A little bit of honey, a little bit of fruit.
Rolls into that kind of savory flavors, like the spices. The leather almost carries over as well.
Yeah, I get this spiciness, but at the same time, everything's just almost wrapped up in like this blanket of like a woody, oaky smoke.
Yeah.
Because for me, I don't know what it is, but the peat in this one isn't so, or the smokiness of it isn't so vegetal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really, I don't know. It's just great.
I mean, like it's different. Like I'm going to say something that's going to sound pretty similar, but it almost carries across that kind of cooked meaty note that is similar in Ardbeg. Like I'm not getting the same kind of meaty note you get in Ardbeg, but it is more of that. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Like you're right. It's not vegetal. It's also not wood smoke, but it's that cooked smoke.
Yeah, that's really what I was trying to say. It's, it is that almost Ardbeg like smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that. So this is like right up my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And what's really great as well is even for me, like on the finish, there's a real great balance of everything there. The spiciness, the sweetness, the
I was going to say the
smokiness.
sweetness comes back on the finish. Yeah.
They all
'Cause that's the-
really, they all really, I guess, fill the gaps in each other. And it's not just that, but right at the back, there's this real nice, sugary, just layer that
Mm.
it just really, I guess, finished everything really, really well.
Yeah, because like even as you're going through it, I said like you go on a journey, you're kind of rolling from one element to the next, and the peat comes across. So it isn't super present initially. So if you're not accustomed to peat, don't think that's going to overwhelm this one and be the only thing you can taste, because it comes up later and it comes across quite vividly. Like it's definitely there. You definitely can tell that it is present. So it's not like we have to go searching for it. But then it also gives way to that balanced finish that we were just talking about. So it doesn't leave you with just like this smoky feeling in your mouth.
Yeah. It's just, like I was saying before, everything is just so balanced. All right, this is Thanos with the blade on his finger.
Yeah.
And it's just balance. It's just perfect. It's almost just, I don't really know what else to say about the palette. It's just, there's so much more complexity there.
Yeah.
So if we're looking
And it's
at
definitely a
this,
more enjoyable journey too.
yeah, as I was about to say, if we're looking at this comparatively again, they're just in the ring, in the Thunderdome, in the Thunderdram. It's, oh man, the Cragganmore almost just sat back, was like, show me what you got, because I kind of know I have this one in the bag.
Yeah. Lay it on me. Lay it on me. I can take it because you are not prepared for what I'm about to deliver.
Yeah, and it does look like that so far anyway. I mean, I don't know if the addition of water can really throw this off that much that I'm going to just be spit it out, but I don't know. Really, really good so far.
Let's try it. So I've added a little bit of water to mine. I mean, like, so the nose hasn't changed a great deal, but everything seems a little bit sharper. It is still that super fragrant note, which I think is great to see. I mean, like, I know you're not expecting there to be too much influence, impact, or damage to something that's sitting at 58.4%, but it's kind of like heightened and sharpened a lot of the florally fragrant notes I was picking up earlier.
It's interesting that you say it hasn't changed with water. How much did you add?
I only added a couple of drops because I don't have that much left. I was enjoying it too much. I think the smoke is coming across a little bit more as well.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
Because,
You got a different experience?
yeah, so I left a little bit more in mine. And then I dropped in 2 teaspoons of water. I'm almost getting pineapple.
Oh, interesting.
That's come like just straight off the barbecue. I don't know. It's
all right, because this will be an interesting experiment. I added a couple of drops of 1 teaspoon of water, and actually, like I'm kind of wrong there because the nose has been changing as you've been talking. It is getting a lot more smoked. It's a lot more like meaty smoke as well, like cooked meat smoke in a really pleasant, nice way. Because it is still combined with a lot of that fragrance, and that like really florally fresh outdoor airs. But I might add a little bit more water and see if it changes much more.
yeah, it's really interesting because mine's a little different. I'm not getting any of that smoky meat. I'm getting the fragrance that you're saying. And again, even this is still contender for Brad's choice perfume. I'm almost getting a bit of toffee as well. Even some, what is it, like orange jam? Like, what's like marmalade? Is that marmalade? I don't know.
Yep, yeah.
It's almost like that, I almost feel like I'm Paddington Bear.
Okay. No, this is really interesting because I just added probably the same amount I added before. So like double what I added originally. And you're right. Yeah. That kind of like really fruity, citrusy, pineapple-y note. That's coming like, and it's kind of the smoked meatiness has also given way to that. So it is like, I'm just actually like, even though I've tried this 2 or 3 times before, my jaw's on the floor now.
Yeah. It's great to see how the water's played with this one because it's really opened the door to just a whole another world of flavor.
Yeah, it really has. And I'm just like, again, I'm just still shocked at the three vividly different expressions I got, like the really fragrant, fresh, lemony kind of note initially, to the smoked, cooked meat second, and then finally into this kind of, again, fresh and fruity. Yeah, I would almost say like cooked, like grilled pineapple as well. And then into that like marmalade that you're also mentioning. There's also like an underlying spice, like underlying spices there. But let's go into the palate now.
Yeah, yeah. I could almost just sit here and smell the glass all day. What's good to see is that the water hasn't washed away the peat.
Yeah.
The smoke's still there, but it's just wisps of smoke now.
Yeah, because that is one of the things you do worry about with like the slightly peated drams. When you add a touch of water, it does kind of dilute, but it's still there. But as you mentioned, it is kind of sitting in the back, but it's not as if it's been watered down or washed away. It's been amplified, like other flavors have been amplified in addition to it. Because I'm getting like a similar kind of baked orchard fruit, like I would say pear, but again, it's nowhere near as vivid as I was getting in the Cardhu.
Yeah, and even for that, like, I don't know if you should say that, oh, you're worried that the smoke will get washed away. I mean, we're worried that the smoke's going to get washed away. I mean, I don't know about our listeners. A lot of you guys may not be on that same Pete fondness that Daniel and I are. So you might be looking at the water, hoping that it does wash away some of that smoke.
Yeah.
But I'd say with the water, it makes the smoke a lot more bearable, a lot more pleasant. And it's more just, like I said, just wisps of smoke. It's not going to overpower anything, and it's not going to just throw your palate off.
Yeah, and even at the end there, like on the finish, kind of coming in towards the end, I'm getting a little bit more of like a, again, still that kind of cooked meat is coming at the end, like that savory, but also seasoned cooked meat. So they're like the marinade, whatever was coating it, contained a whole bunch of fresh herbal seasoning.
Yeah, even for me, like some of that spiciness comes through as a bit of nutmeg as well.
Oh, yeah. I can see that, like nutmegs, rosemary, fennel, cardamom, like just all the things that you'd season meat with to make it really tasty.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's great. Even some of the salinity of the dram has come out with the addition of that water.
I don't know how you're going with it, but I couldn't stop. I finished mine.
I've still got just a little bit left. All right. So, dram in words, you can go first since I have a little bit left.
All right. So, my dram in words for this one, I have like embodied the owl on the front of Cragganmore. So, I've taken off from my barn in the middle of the night. The barn contains a workshop. So, you're getting like those kind of leathery, sawdust, sandalwood kind of notes coming up. Flying out into the night in search of, like, I'm on the hunt in search of my meal. And, you know, I found something, and maybe I'm a little bit innovative. Maybe I've decided, you know what, I'm going to cook my meal tonight. So I've dropped it by the fire, and I'm just enjoying a, I don't know, super fragrant, super warm, super delicious meal.
Okay, so I'm going to stay in the realm of belief with my German words.
No, true story. This actually happened to me.
So similar motif, similar take from this dram here. I'd say I'm one of the owls on one of the nearby barns, or that are just around the trail leading up to the distillery. And it's the dark of the night, as is the canister. I've taken flight and almost lost my way, find myself in unfamiliar territory. I'm just off the coast of Isla, and almost just at the same time unfamiliar territory, but it feels like home.
Yep.
And slowly getting used to my surroundings, and it's just, yeah, I'm not gonna go home. I think I'm happy here.
This is my new home.
I think I like what's around here. So that's what this is to me. This is an owl from Speyside. That's, you know what? has taken flight and gone off and made home on Isla. So it's just all those characteristics that Al had, that he grew up in Speyside and it took flight and took it with it to Isla or Sky, I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, just, great.
Super enjoyable. Okay, so the battle that I watched, Cardhu threw some not insignificant punches initially. Like, it came out of the gates with, a lot of ambition. It had a lot of spirit to it. But when Cragganmore responded, it just knocked it flat. Like,
Yeah.
there was no question there. Like, Cragganmore won this one.
Yeah. It was, for me, this was almost it just wasn't even a contest, hey?
Yeah.
Like, I know you might think, this is really biased. You guys obviously were going to pick the peated Dram.
The peated one.
But if you're
I don't think that's what it is, though. Like,
No,
I don't
not
think
at
it
all.
was the fact that it was peated that won this for it.
No, not at all. And even if you're looking at it, the peat in this is it's not so overpowering. It's not, I was going to say it's not the defining characteristic, but it is. It's what makes this stand out. But I think what really makes this Dram special is the fact that everything plays together so well and everything is so finely tuned and balanced that the peat doesn't throw anything off. The sweetness from Speyside doesn't throw the peat off.
Yeah.
And then there's just like this great underlying spice that you'd expect from a typical bourbon cask.
Yeah, I would agree.
So everything just plays together so well that you almost have to kind of look at it and go, this is something special.
Because the thing, like, you're looking at the pre-battle stats and you've got like, okay, you got the Cardhu 14 against the Cragganmore 12. There's a little bit of age disparity there, but at the same time, the higher age has a lower ABV by a couple of percent. It seems evenly matched to begin with. And then when the battle actually starts, you're like, oh no, this is not an even match at all. Like, there is one definitive winner here.
Yeah. And even if you're looking at these two Drams, like as we were today, it's two types of whiskey that we adore. We adore sherried whiskey and we adore peated whiskey. So was it appropriate or was it true to our palate, true to our nature that peated whiskey came out on top? I don't know. That's for the philosophers out there. But I don't know what it is, because if I'm honest, I would have thought the Cardhu 14 had a lot more fight. I would have thought it would have brought a lot more to the Thunder Dram today. But unfortunately, the Cragganmore 12 was prepared.
Yeah.
And
did its training. Rocky montage happened.
Yeah. It took the appropriate steps, and there was only ever going to be one victor because of that. And the Cardhu 14, unfortunately, you leave the Thunder Dram today bloodied and bruised.
Yeah. But, still to fight another day. You live to fight another day.
Yeah. You, unfortunately, do not match up to your younger brother. But what can you do? I don't know.
Just leave the Thunder Dram.
Yeah, just you can just leave the Thunder Dram. The door is that way.
But in saying that, like, I think we should get onto the ratings, because while it was a loser of the battle, I still think it was quite a good whiskey.
Yeah,
so,
it was a good whiskey.
So how do you place it, Brad? What are you going to rate this?
Okay, so for me, this is probably going to sit at I'm going to say this sits at a 7.8.
Okay, yep.
Yep, so this one for me, it didn't creep into the 8s, only because for me, the nose held this back. The nose held it back, the initial palate held it back, and just the fact that I was almost clutching at straws to try and lengthen what I was experiencing in a Dram. And for me personally, I don't want to do that. Even though I do enjoy, even though I did enjoy what was present. So, which is why this still sits in the 7s.
Yeah.
For me. And not even just the 7s, it's the high 7s. This is almost an 8. It's still a very, very good whiskey. It's just, unfortunately, which is really weird for me, considering the sherry kick I'm on, this just didn't sit that right with me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I'm going to give it a 7.9. So pretty close. It's on the verge of being an 8. I think had it brought a little bit more complexity to the table, would have definitely been an 8. Or had the sherry influence, which, as you said, like it's strange coming from being aged 2 years in sherry, that a lot of the complex sherry flavors that we love weren't overtly present here. That is, if anything, the only thing that held it back from being in the 8s. But at the same time, like it was a great risky, really enjoyable. Like I could have a dram of this and be quite satisfied. But at the same time, it didn't carry enough to put it into the 8s.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, for me, the Cragganmore 12, though, that is a 9.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to give it a 9.1.
Okay, 9.1. Just have to one-up me, yeah?
I do, yeah.
For me as well, this dram is criminally underrated.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't see enough people talking about it.
Yeah.
I should say I don't hear enough people talking about it. But it's such a pleasant dram.
Yeah, the fact that this isn't already sold out, I'm both thankful for, but also a little bit offended by. It's like, how are people not appreciating what this has to offer? Because you're right, it is like criminally underrated. Like it is, in my mind, spectacular. It's an excellent dram. It is an all-time favorite, and I actually might go out and buy a second bottle because I don't know what I'm going to do when I finish this one and just never going to be able to get this kind of expression again.
Yeah, this is almost a dram that I feel sad or hurt that it's a limited release. It's one that
personally offended me.
I feel personally attacked.
Yeah.
That this is only a limited release, that I'm not going to be able to go out and purchase this again.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like, Diageo, how dare you? How dare you
dangle such a sweet treat in front of us and then just yank it away by like, sorry, we got no more.
Yeah, exactly. So the limited nature of this, but the fact that it's still available almost has me in that same...
I'm angry.
It has me angry, but it has me in that same boat as you, that I'm probably going to go out and buy a bottle to add this to my collection as well, because it is worth that. So
I think at the end of the day, that's what it is. Like our recommendation, if this is still available near you, buy it. Like do yourself a favor and buy it.
Yeah, if you're just strolling through your local and you see the Cragganmore 12 2019 special release and you see the Cardhu 14, go home with the Cragganmore 12.
Yeah.
And I
if
should
you
say,
want
do yourself a
clarification
favor.
on what this bottle actually looks like, check our Instagram because we will be putting a photo of this up once this episode is released.
Righty, so let's give it its credit, ladies and gentlemen. The Cragganmore 12 2019 special release. The
Round
winner
of applause.
Yeah, round of applause. The winner of today's Thunder Dram episode 2.
Very appropriate.
Yeah, very appropriate. It was just a very, very worthy winner. And it just needed to be said.
It did. All right, now that's all we have time for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. It would be a huge help if you could give us a rating wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep, preferably 5 stars.
Yeah, of course. And if you'd like to get in contact, you can reach us at Dram Talk Podcast on Instagram or email us at dramtalk.au@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you've tried these, which one's your favorite? Which one are you most excited for the 2020 special release? And yeah, what's your favorite from the 2019 one?
Now, our glasses may be empty, but we hope yours aren't. So, pour another dram!